Good afternoon, everyone who is joining us, and welcome to our Association Career HQ session, backed by popular demand, of course, navigating power and boundaries, how to speak up and say no to keep winning. My name is Joseph Watkins, and I'm honored to facilitate today's discussion. So, we are returning to this topic once again by popular demand because so many of you requested deeper strategies on mastering the strategic no. In a world filled with professional noise, learning to how to set those boundaries is essential to ensuring you can say yes to the career moves that truly matter. So we have a lot of ground to cover today. So please feel free to submit your questions, engagement, definitely through the chat and throughout the presentation. So let us begin. Mariama.
So great to have you all here. Thank you. And it is wonderful to be here after 25 plus 30 years as an executive and also in coaching, consulting, training, working with a broad overview of industries and associations and nonprofits. Just want to say it's really glad to be here. We're going to have a great time today. And I will also say I love comedy and concerts. So if you know any comedy shows that are coming up, let me know. And Lori.
Thank you, Mariama. So glad to be back with you. This is so fun. Y'all, I'm so excited to be here again. After 25 years of coaching and executive training, I'm excited to share my knowledge on today's topic. I'm excited to connect with all of you. Thank you so much for those who have connected with me on LinkedIn beyond the webinars. So, Mariama, back to you.
Okay. And again, we just want to also really say thank you to Joseph as well as our ASAE staff team that are here to continue to support. We really appreciate the partnership and all the wonderful work that you all do as a small and mighty team for us as members and member leaders. So let's make sure that we give our ASAE staff lots of love. So, we know that this session matters because in associations, there's constantly this intersection of influence, governance, competing priorities, and trying to figure out how to get it all done. And at the same time, trying to figure out not only how to respond to say a strategic no, yet sometimes we also really just need the words to say. And your credibility is connected to that, right? And it's connected to it in terms of the clarity, the capacity, and the way that you communicate with confidence. And so that's why on our journey today, we are going to dive deeper into these dynamics around decision making and all the stakeholders that you are working with and how you actually really structure that communication. You're going to get techniques, you're going to get tools, you're going to get frameworks. We're going to have an opportunity to also hear from a few of you in terms of your own individual situations. We're going to do scenarios. So, this is going to be a very interactive session. And we also want to, of course, always make sure that we are connecting some things back to ethics and how we can utilize ethics to really help influence the accountability as well as the authority that we have when we need to say no. So, definitely, again, welcome everybody, and we are so glad to be here. As we move forward, let's remember that we have some guidelines for dialogue in terms of being a community today. Please provide your perspective in the chat. We may, from time to time, ask one or two people to come off of mute. We want to protect this as a safe space. Please share all the great tips and tools and concepts that we grapple with here today. Yet let's make sure that we hold a safe space for those that are sharing their stories. And we want to make sure that their stories are their own so we don't repeat their stories. In addition, share what you want seen because this is being recorded. And please be precise. We want to hear as many voices as possible. And if you agree, go ahead and give somebody an emoticon, a thumbs up, if you agree with something that someone says and it really resonates for you. And it will be okay to come off mute when we ask for you to contribute to the conversation. So, again, thank you all for being part of this community. We are honored to be here with you as well. And so when we think about why we don't speak up, right, it's often not a capability issue. There's nothing wrong with you. It's often how you are working through the emotions and what you're feeling when you're under pressure. So, what I'm going to ask you now to do is post in the chat which one of these shows up for you the most when you feel the pressure to say no. Is it worry, doubt, fear, frustration? You're not sure what to say, you're unsure how others will respond, or is there something else? Go ahead and post in the chat what resonates for you.
Unsure how others will respond. Nice.
Yeah,
A lot of
frustration.
those.
Yeah, I see a lot of worry. Yeah, I
All
have
of
a
the
lot of
above.
unsures. Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So this really helps us as we continue to move forward, and we're going to integrate some of what you're saying as we continue to really think about what are the key elements with that strategic no. We've got kind of four concepts that we're going to be dealing with today, under the umbrella of navigating power, and then also under the umbrella of boundary setting. So, we're going to talk about speaking up using self leadership. We're going to talk about strategic questions, number two. Number three, we're going to talk about boundary setting. And then, of course, we're going to talk about how to use the power framework with ethics. So I'm going to get started with the navigating power and remembering that speaking up is also about how you use your self leadership. What do I mean by that? You have the strengths within you. You have the strengths within you, even under pressure. The key thing is how are you using your strengths under pressure? And how do you also go about this process of knowing yourself and knowing your style? You know, Socrates says, know thyself, right? And so it's important for you to know yourself, know your style, know your strengths, and then also be aware of the factors, the situations, the stimuli that might be causing triggers, sometimes under rooted or rooted fear, sometimes negative thinking. And how do we mitigate that? Because we are so bombarded in the world to think negatively first or to be fearful or afraid. And so we want to make sure that we're mitigating that and really thinking about what we bring to the table in terms of our self leadership. So, what is one strength you have that you can use when you're under pressure? Want to definitely see that. I know, for example, for myself, when I'm under pressure, I think about how I really try to be clear and sometimes methodical because I am a Virgo at heart. And so I think that that sometimes really serves me well when I'm under pressure because it helps me to really think through what am I feeling, how am I approaching this, etc. Lori, I don't know if you have any suggestions, but I also see
Yeah.
some
So
suggestions in the chat.
for me, I know that my superpower is the pause.
Yes.
I call this emotional mastery, where I'm able to just pause,
Yeah.
regulate my nervous system, think, and then respond.
Yeah.
Always responding versus reacting. And the question that I like to ask myself is, where is this emotion coming from before I respond? Right? Like,
Absolutely.
if
Yeah.
I'm feeling this way, where's it coming from and why?
Absolutely. And I'm also seeing here in the chat, some people, your superpower is to slow down or to take one thing at a time, or, the power of the pause, or sometimes, really thinking about how to consider all of the dynamics and the factors. And so those are key superpowers. We want you to be reminded about your superpowers because this is, again, part of it is about self leadership and recognizing that you have a locus of control. You may not be able to control, and you can't control how other people respond. However, you can control yourself. And that self mastery is important. And so just remember, right? These are just the facts. There's lots of research out there in terms of where we are today and as it relates to stress. And Gallup has done some recent research as well as really been following the things that contribute to our stress, as well as the American Psychological Association. And so what we know and have seen is that 70% of employees are saying that unclear expectations and even power dynamics at work tend to drive stress. Now, we know that there are so many other characteristics, and we'll do a session later on stress and burnout, and we have before. Yet, just want to kind of set that yes, we do recognize that, and that is a reality. We are
So,
definitely not living in a la la land. And
so
so that's where
Mariama,
it's important to look at that.
Mariama, before we move on to this slide, we had a great question from Lillian. If I can just put it out there real quick and respond to it. She asked, can you say more about responding versus reacting and how you feel they differ? So, Lillian, this is for you and everybody else. I always say that a reaction starts in your belly and in your heart. And then the reaction just comes out either your mouth, your body, however that is. Now, the response. The response always starts out as a reaction. It is an emotion that you feel in your gut and in your heart. Though the reaction goes to your brain in a matter of seconds to get processed. There is a pause between the emotions that you feel and how they come out of your body. So, with a response, you start as a reaction with the emotion, afford the reaction to go up into your brain, get processed. It turns into a response because you've taken the time to just pause, figure out what your intent is with your words, your actions, and you've thought, what is the impact that this is going to have on others?
Yeah, and thank you, Lori, because the question that was asked is definitely something that Lori is going to cover when she gets to strategic questions. So thank you, Lori, for answering that question for us and giving us a little bit of a preview there. And wonderful questions, everybody. You've got great, great questions. And so, yes, the ability to alleviate tension. And manage kind of the tone in the room versus also looking at the nonverbals are all key aspects, which is also why we have to talk about the reality of power. There are lots of different elements of power. I've identified three here, and we've identified three here that we often see operate consistently in associations and in the work environment. You've got positional power, those are titles, right? In terms of someone in a particular position. You've got relational power, that's, the influence that we have and that we garner and the trust that we build when we're building rapport and relationships with others. And then there's this element of informal power, people that may not necessarily be in the position, they may not necessarily have the relationship, but they have the key relationships to be able to provide access. And then also, as we think about those that are culture carriers that set the tone and the culture and the climate in a particular space. So when you think about power, I want you to also be thinking about which form might be a big barrier for you in your association or a friend that you know in their association. Okay. Which form of power have you seen be big barriers in the association space? And that is why we also want to make sure that we begin to talk about power and use it as a strength. So, yes, I'm seeing informal power, positional power, um, informal power. Yes, really looking at those ways that folks are using that informally.
Yep, we have some
Wonderful.
organizational structure as well
Yes,
through.
yes,
Yep. So
absolutely.
we have a lot of combinations of a few of them together. So
Yes. And these are all really important, and you'll definitely continue to see this as we move forward and talking about strategic questions. And then when we talk about boundaries, all the good stuff. So exciting. And so let's think about power in terms of a framework, right? And we've already have already kind of gone into some of this because you all are just on it and awesome and wonderful. And so, yes, we talked about the power of the pause, right? Reading the room, what's really going on? The O is of looking at those different power dynamics. Which one of these elements of power might be operating? Who's influencing the decision? Then, of course, you've got to look at the weight of the visibility and the impact of you speaking up, you stepping out, you being seen, saying no? What's the impact, both perceived and also real? Okay. And then thinking about how you're expressing yourself. That's the E. Being direct, concise, and confident with a smile, with a positive attitude, and in terms of your tone, your pitch, etc., can be golden. And then the R is responding, not immediately reacting, going back to what Lori was saying about how our minds and our bodies process response versus reaction. So how are we managing our emotions, regulating our brain to kind of catch up so that we can also be strategic? And
Mariama,
that's where Lori's going to get us into a scenario.
yes, and before we do, I just wanted to add one other little point,
Of course.
not little, just another point. Um, we can't forget about our body language as well.
Yes.
You know, how we look when we are expressing how we would like to respond to what's coming up for us. All right,
Yes.
so here is the scenario, the impossible update. During a team meeting, a deadline is set for tomorrow, excuse me. Are you unsure what to say? Is you want to let them know that your schedule is full, their timeline is unrealistic, and potentially the quality of the work is at risk. You quietly disagree and are unsure what to say. So here is what we are asking of you. If you were in this scenario, what are your feelings? Let us know in the chat. Annoyed, frustrated, anxious, excellent,
Stress.
nervous.
Yes. Absolutely. And then how would you solve this? Lori, any thoughts on that?
Well, I'd love to see what everybody would start saying. Depends on the context, how many people are in this meeting. Good. What is driving this deadline? Okay. I would lead with the quality issues. Great. Ah, perfect. I'd love to know why the deadline. Yes. And first and foremost, it's about being curious. What do they really want? What is the full scope of the project? And navigating how to let someone know that your schedule is full. The first thing is tell them directly, this is what I have on my plate right now. What is the priority for you versus the priority for the other people? And really getting into a dialogue that is both engaging and beneficial to both parties. So that is my number one, curiosity, clear and concise about what's on the timeline for you personally. And number three, having a full, mutually beneficial dialogue between the two parties. Mariama, anything to add on that? You're muted.
There we go. I think you've hit it on point, and I am seeing in the chat something that I absolutely love by Jennifer. She said, how do we assess the level of importance, right? And what is the impact going to be on the association for members, etc. And I think that if it's mission critical or if it's critical to keeping the doors open or keeping the lights on or something of that nature, let's, really have that dialogue and conversation. So thank you, Lori.
Thank you. And thank you all for chiming in via the chat.
Yes.
So we spoke about this regarding strategic questions, curious questions, right? Your mindset is the key to unlocking the response that you will use in a strategic way. So, what I've come to realize is that not speaking up isn't a skill problem. It's more of a mindset problem. So if we focus on the mindset we have about speaking up, that will shift how we are. So here are some ways we can strategically speak up. So as a learner, we can be curious and open. There's also the mindset of defensive, where it's more reactive. And so, just a little bit more about that. A defensive mindset is the person that finishes their sentence before the person has finished with their thought, their understanding. So, really not processing. Then the judgment, assuming. The judgment mindset has decided what's happening before the question is even asked. You're coming in with some bias. And then, last but not least, the deceptive, avoiding the truth. What is truly happening? So, here's the one thing about strategic questioning and speaking up. I'm going to encourage and empower you to be professional over perfect. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to encourage and empower you to be professional over perfect. Mariama?
And so, as you think about being professional over perfect and managing your mindset, let's look at this scenario. And as we're moving through, we want you all to be challenging yourselves to take some of what we've just said and apply it. Okay. So, do me a favor with that. A colleague asks you, can you help with this presentation? It's due tomorrow. And you're reflecting that number one, you are at capacity. Number two, you have not clarified the scope or the urgency. So I'm going to ask you, what question or questions would you ask? Place in the chat, if you would, what question or questions would you ask? And can we get one person that's willing to come off of mute in 30 seconds or less and share with us what their question would be?
Thank you, everyone who's
Yeah.
participating in the chat.
Anyone willing to come off of mute and just share real quick what their question would be? What's one question you would ask?
So, as we're waiting for someone to come off mute, I'd like to just encourage and empower people to know about closed questions versus open questions, where open questions start with things like tell me, explain to me, show me, how does this work, versus closed questions, which start with is, can, do. Those closed questions don't afford you the in-depth answer that you need as much as a open or probing question does.
Yeah, so for example, Shannon has said, can you tell me or help me understand more about what you need? Love that because it sets you up for a curious learning mindset. And of course, managing tone, pitch, body language, nonverbals, all of that. And so thank you, everyone. Lots of
Mariama.
great questions. Yeah.
Mariama Lori, if I may, just to
Yeah.
add maybe a little prompt, because I do like to ask prompts. I would say something like, I understand that this is a priority for tomorrow, for example, because he said tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, like, out of certain areas or sections, which specific areas currently get like the biggest roadblock for you?
Yes, absolutely. So kind of paraphrasing what the what your colleague has asked you, and then absolutely leading in with that. Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate that.
You're
Love it.
welcome.
And that's where, when we think about these are the kinds of things that we cover in coaching because coaching really builds and helps you build that confidence, helps you build that clarity. You get an opportunity to practice and it really strengthens your strategic thinking. So if you're struggling sometimes with speaking up in the moment, feeling hesitation, saying yes too quickly or saying yes too often, or trying to figure out, how do I strengthen my decision making. We really hope that you will tap in to the coaching services that ASAE has and begin to think about how that can build your confidence and clarity for the future.
I'd like to let everyone know we may not be reading all the
Yeah.
answers aloud, and I am reading them here silently, and y'all are doing so well with
Yeah.
great questions, really going deep versus just yes and no. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, I love this question. What is your absolute deadline and what are you looking for from me? Love that. What do you need help with and when do you need it by? Absolutely.
Yes,
Love it.
here's what I'm working on. I'm happy to help you. What would you like me to put on hold until this requested task is done? Great job on that one, Anna.
Yeah,
Like I said,
that'd be
seeing
great.
fantastic stuff. Y'all got this. Yay. All right, let's go with some navigating of boundaries. So here we have a framework of how to say no with a boundary. So we start with the context, understanding what is real. And so in this, it's simply telling the truth, not an excuse, not an apology, just the facts. I'm at capacity right now. That's it. I'm at capacity right now. Then, number two, the decision, the clear boundary. No hedging and no over explaining. This looks like something where right now I have a deadline of X, Y, and Z due by this date. This is what I have. Let's work together regarding how we can move forward. So, a little bit more about this. The less you explain, the more confident you show up and the clearer you are. And last but not least, offer the response, your optional next step. And that's it. Same offering, though an alternative. It doesn't have to be exactly what they asked for. There can be a shift in that. So once again, we say structure over the perfect wording, also known as professional over perfect. When we show up as as the professional person we are, that's all that we need. Now, thinking about this framework, the context, the decision, or the offer of a response, which one takes you the most time and energy? Give it to us in the chat. Um, so so for the worry of providing context, sounds like an excuse. That's your mindset.
Yeah.
That's a mindset shift. When you are clear, concise, and to the point, that will shift your mindset. So,
Yeah, thank you. And I also, if I could, Lori, sometimes
yeah.
I hear, um, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to come across XYZ way. I'm not sure if I'm going to come across aggressive or edgy or not wanting to be a team player. Again, let's not assume, right? We talked earlier about assumptions. And so we want to be in this curious mindset, yet also just the reality of what the facts are. And that sometimes helps you from spiraling into all those other what ifs. A lot of times I will have said, and many of you have heard me say, be at the stop sign versus down the street. Figure out and focus on what's in front of you and the emotions that you're dealing with in front of you rather than all of the what ifs and trying to write the story of what's down the street. Does
So
that
I'd
make
like to respond to Hannah G.
Yeah.
The response, I'm very straightforward and not conflict adverse. So I worry I come off too curt. Hannah, I'm going to say that your body language, your tone, and your mindset of thinking, what is the impact? That will help you really navigate how you're showing up and how everything lands on the person. So I am all about authentic leadership, that you can be yourself. And if that is very concise and to the point, I'm going to encourage and empower you to shift your words about yourself, specifically that Kurt. You're concise and to the point, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, just really understanding your mindset and being okay with who you are and knowing that your body language and your tone will make the words land for those who know you.
Certainly. And another great tip that I often ask people to do is record yourself. Have you ever recorded yourself or even gotten feedback from someone when as you are talking or as you're responding? There, we have an immense capacity in terms of our tone, our pitch. Smiling helps with that as well. And so, really figuring out how you are playing with your verbals and your nonverbals to be able to come across as the authentic person that you truly are.
I'd like to add one last thing, and then we do need
Yeah,
to move on. Um, I'm going to encourage and empower you all to have these conversations either in person, on video, or on the phone. When we have the channel of email and text, everything gets a little bit blurry. So the more you could do on the phone, in person, or video, the better it will be. All right, Mariama, let's
yeah.
roll.
Thank you for that, Lori. Especially when we're in an environment where we are using so much email, it's really hard to gather tone, pitch, and intention, which is why we also go back to these elements related to relationship. Not all relationships can be developed and managed just by email. So we really got to navigate that and kind of break this mold sometimes and this habit that we have gotten into because the 15 emails that you've sent back and forward relating to this particular situation, pick up the phone, have a conversation, etc. And especially, we know that Microsoft Teams and chat and all of these tools can be immensely helpful. Yet, when you're also trying to navigate saying no, setting boundaries, etc., it can be very helpful to do these things in person or to an area where someone can actually hear what your intention is or see for also and try to match that intention with what they're hearing. So let's talk about this rolling deadline scenario. All right. Your manager comes to you toward the end of the day, perhaps, and says, "Can you get this done? I really need this for tonight." This has been a repeated pattern, number one. And then number two, you're now feeling pressured, overextended, and frustrated. What do you do? How do you use the context decision offer a response framework to help guide your response? Any suggestions? Post in the chat or anyone willing to come off of mute. How can you respond using?
Nice one, Emily. I like that. Everybody
Yeah,
take a look at Emily's. Nice.
yes. I need to wrap up with work on time today. I'll share what I'm able to get done by the end of the day and can finish it when I'm back in the office tomorrow. That is offering a great context decision and a response. I,
Melissa L did one as well. I understand that this is a priority for you. I have a hard stop at this time, whatever the time is. I can work on it at this time tomorrow,
yeah.
and have this amount done completed by this date and time.
Yeah, I also love Jennifer, right? Jennifer L. She says, I'm at capacity right now. Is it critical for this task to be done today, or can we schedule a time to discuss it in more detail tomorrow? Love it.
Susan has a great one. Is the task something that can be done tomorrow, not by COB? Can we meet to have, can we meet to review your upcoming tasks?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not able to assist today. I look forward to connecting with you tomorrow, understanding all your needs. Yeah,
Yeah. And I
So,
love, yeah, Regan, says, I understand this is a priority for you. Going back to Joseph's point earlier about kind of the rephrasing, right? Using that rephrasing to lead in so that your colleague, manager, supervisor knows that you heard them, and then you can move forward with the contact decision, offer a response.
and so with it being like next day, right? The
Yeah.
other thing I wanted to mention is it is okay to say it is the end of the day and I am not at my best, mentally, capacity wise. If afforded the opportunity to do this tomorrow, you get the fresher me, the more, whatever that person is. And
Yeah.
letting them know I am at the capacity of my thinking, of my creativity. Tomorrow would afford me the opportunity to be fresher
Yeah.
and have them think about that as well. So,
Certainly. And we know that there are also other dynamics that some of you may have to dance based on the relationship. So that's why it's also really important to develop that rapport because once the relationship is strong in terms of trust and being able to mitigate through some of these conflict situations or things that feel like conflict, then you're able to get more toward a learner path rather than a judge or defensive path as well.
so before we go on to this scenario, Claudia had a question. If this is a constant issue, how to address this? So the sooner the better.
Yeah.
And it is having a conversation just like we are doing right now
Yep.
in person saying, for example, I'll just use Mariama's name. Mariama, I I am feeling a little under pressure when you bring me work last minute. When I receive the work last minute, I know that I'm not at my best mentally, creatively, and it makes me feel like I will do the job under par. That being said, what can we do together so that you can bring me work sooner versus last minute? And then the ball is in the other person's court.
Absolutely. And so I went back one slide because, again, Lori beautifully answered that question with the whole element of context, decision, offer. You can still offer a response, you can still use it in many other situations. Number one, if it's a constant pattern, you got to focus also in on the relationship, which is why we're saying have the conversation face to face because there's something in the relationship dynamic that you all have now crafted this dance and this pattern. So the key question is how do you get out of that cycle? You get out of that cycle by stating what's real. This is how I'm feeling, using your I statement, then moving toward the decision in terms of what you have seen, what the facts are, and what you would like to set around your boundary, and then offering that response related to how can we move towards solution together. So it works in so many scenarios and situations with saying no. And then also, if you find that you are in a pattern within a relationship pattern with someone where this is happening consistently, there's something at the root of the relationship that there's an opportunity to reset.
So we had a question that came through.
Yeah.
How can you walk this back if you have just done it in the past? How do you establish a new boundary of saying no to your manager and not working late when maybe they are used to you saying yes? Okay, so let me just do this one real quick.
Yeah.
Um, you've set a precedence, and the only way to shift a precedence and change it is to change it. You
Yeah.
have to make that decision to say, okay, this is the old me. Now here's the new me. And it is about that conversation. So when you are looking to change the precedents you've created of who you are, how late you work, how much you put on your plate, you just need to start to shift it. And
Yeah.
it's about working with others in a mutually beneficial way. And conversation is key. Um, what if this impacts your future? So, last but not least, what if it impacts your future? It already is impacting your future. You just didn't realize it until now.
Absolutely. And that's
So,
where coaching, practicing these responses, strengthening your leadership clarity, being at the stop sign versus down the street, you know, what if it impacts my future? We know that that's a lot to unpack. And so these are the kinds of things that we work through in coaching to help you look at what's real and then navigate this step by step. Sometimes you have to take small steps, sometimes you take the big leap, yet you also have to take the leap. It's not going to happen by osmosis. And we're here to help you take that leap. You don't have to do this alone. And I know so many of you feel alone when you're in these situations and under that kind of pressure. Any other thoughts, Lori?
so with coaching, we believe you have all the answers within you. And we are just a support system of understanding, helping you understand who you are authentically. We are here today to give you strategies. These strategies you are to take and make your own. My words are my words. Mariama's words are her words. This is just a contextual box for you to take away and make your own. We hope that today you're taking away verbiage, mindset, excuse me, and so much more
Yes.
because you all do have the power within you to show up authentically and use your boundaries.
And you certainly can reset, reframe, and redesign your future. You can reset, reframe, and redesign your future, whether that's an hour from now, 5 hours from now, 24 hours from now, a week, etc. You can do this. And so that's why we talk about this power framework. That's why we talk about context decision offer, to get you to practice. And then when you partner it with the concept related to ethics, right? So, yes, you're thinking about the power dynamics and how this might impact you. Yes, you're thinking about the power, POWER framework. And we also want you to be thinking about ethics and accountability because operating in the association space, you've got to continue to ask yourself when these things come up, where are you overextending? Where have you been overextending or overfunctioning? Where are you under positioning yourself? What is a boundary you need to begin to practice and start setting this week, this month, etc.? And so that's where when we think about ways to really manifest, we're going to talk about ethics in just a moment and really looking at how ethics can also help you be a superpower.
All right. So, as we think about all this, here's another scenario, and we're calling this the shortcut decision. During a one on one, your board chair or senior leader says, let's move forward. We don't need to loop in the full team. This bypasses the process and risks misalignment. We're asking you, what makes this difficult? Give it to us in the chat. What makes this scenario difficult?
Yeah, the power dynamic.
Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
rebuking authority,
Yeah.
but I would emphasize the importance. Power imbalance,
Yeah. It's
senior
awkward.
leader,
Yeah.
mhm,
Kind of explaining the rules to your boss. Yeah. Yeah.
stepping on toes. Yep.
And the reason we ask you around what makes this difficult, because it gives you an opportunity to unearth your reaction. And now you have an opportunity. Once you unearth this reaction, then you can think about what's your response in context with the relationship. Okay. So this is so key. And absolutely, the power dynamic, am I excluding others? Would I lose trust? All of the things, right? all of those things that are down the street, yet at the stop sign, what's the root of these reactions and how you're feeling? And then how do you reframe so that it can put you into a situation where you are using your self leadership, you're using your boundaries to set the parameters of saying no. And even as we think about ethics, right, and the ethics of saying no, ethical leadership requires clarity, honesty, responsibility, and courage. Hiding does not. Avoiding does not in reality. And I know that might be hard to hear, right? And so saying no, it's not about avoidance, it's about alignment with your values, your priorities, the integrity of why you're there, and the mission work that has brought you to the association space. And of course, it's aligned with the ASAE standards of conduct, right? And so, as the past chair of the ethics committee, I think this is so important. And that's where I just really wanted to lift up for you all as a key resource. Go back, take a look at the standards, but in particular, I pull out standard 3 and 7. Standard 3 talks about being honest in conducting your business. Standard 7 talks about taking responsibility for your conduct. And these are things that we have to continue to remind ourselves about. All right. And when you have ethics, it requires honesty and transparency. It requires courage, which leads to action. And that leadership, that self leadership that you actualize, requires both honesty and action. So that's where you have an opportunity to think about the questions, the boundaries, and the ethics that you want to express for who you are as a professional and how you're showing up every day. And we have a quick takeaway that we want you to do this week, and then we're going to quickly move into Q&A.
Yeah. So identify one situation you will or might experience. What needs to be said? What questions will you ask? How will you say it? And what boundary will you hold? Make sure you write your response and commit to this action. And the one thing I'm going to say regarding this takeaway, the more you have this in the forefront of your mind, the easier it becomes. All right. And so everyone make sure you're looking at the chat. I've put some stuff in there.
Yeah.
And let's move on, Mariama, to our next section.
Absolutely. And thank you. So, and this is also, I liken it to anyone, for example, if you have played an instrument, played a sport, learned um, a new hobby, put a 1 in the chat if you have done that. If you've played an instrument, learned a new hobby, put a 1 in the chat, or played a musical instrument, etc. Right? Thank you. And I say that because, as a former pianist, um, I had to practice, and I had to practice to get good at it. And that's what we also, and I had, of course, I had a teacher that was wonderfully supportive as well. And so I use that as an example that you got to practice. And we want you to walk away from this webinar with something that you can do that gets you to actually practicing and helps you build that mindset connection.
And I'd like to add one last thing regarding practicing.
Yes.
The more you practice, the practice will become an embodiment of it.
Yes.
So when you start embodying that person that is confident with the relationship dynamics, it will become easier for you as well.
Absolutely. And that's the other element when we talk about coaching. It helps you strengthen how you lead and respond. So you get a lot of practice time, you get space to think, you get space to think about these real leadership challenges that you all are bringing up as well. And now we are on to hearing from you. I think we are able to hear from hopefully 1 or 2 colleagues.
Yep. So what we're going to do now is we're going to need 2 to 3 volunteers. You're going to have to come off mute where you share your situation that you'd like to say no to. Please be as concise as possible and stating the situation to 30 to 60 seconds. Then you will get coaching, laser coaching from either myself or Mariama. What's the root of the struggle or issue with saying no? What do you really want to say? And of course, shifting that language. Say it in a way that honors you and the relationship. So, who would like to join us first? Joseph, I think we may need you on this one to support the person coming off mute. If you'd like to come off mute, throw a number 5 in the chat so we can see you. We got a lot of people on here today. 191, Mariama, 191 people. And y'all, come on now, throw in that number 5.
I absolutely love this. One moment.
Who's going to be my first number 5? I see ones. We're no longer on the ones.
Yeah. And
This
it's
is,
again, it's you don't have to be perfect. We just want to
oh,
Okay, I
know.
have one.
All
yes,
right,
we
let's do
do.
it.
Okay,
All
awesome.
right, let's do it.
One moment. Eliza.
Thanks, Joseph, for your support with this.
You are more than welcome.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, so my situation is that my association is cutting back, and laying off some people and also not rehiring for positions where people are retiring. And my supervisor has asked me to, in addition to my job, fill a full-time position of someone who's retiring. And they tell me that it aligns with my skill set and they think I'll do a good job at it, but I think it's just too much work. How can I say no while still showing that I'm being respectful of the association trying to save money?
Mariama, do you want to start?
Yeah, so Eliza, let me ask you, what do you think is at the root here?
I think the root is trying to save money for the association and me wanting to help out and be a team player.
Mm-hmm. And it also sounds like you really want to say, when this was presented to you, regardless of how crazy or kind it is, what would you have really wanted to say?
That I'm at capacity with my current job and that taking on two full-time jobs just really isn't an option.
Wonderful. And so some language refinement there, right? Just you have it in your mind in terms of and also in your mindset. And so the key thing is being able to say, I really understand that, we're cutting back, folks are retiring. However, I'm at capacity and taking on two jobs at this point really doesn't interest me.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I'm writing it all down.
So, Eliza, before we let you go, I do have one question for you.
Sure.
What does success look like for you at the end of the conversation with your leadership?
So for me, I'm really focused on being a team player, and I don't want my supervisor to walk away with the idea that I'm more invested in myself than in the team.
I hear you, and I'm going to ask the question again.
Uh-huh.
What does success look like and or feel like for you at the end of the conversation?
I guess on a more personal level, success would be walking away without feeling like I'm overloaded with two jobs.
Excellent.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm going to encourage and empower you to focus on, the end result, and see how you can work backwards on getting that end result.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
And then
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you for that, Lori, because ultimately, in addition to at the root of what is going on for your organization, at the root of what's going on for you, and I'm making some assumptions, so let me know, might be I'd like to have some balance, right? What are the things that you'd like to really do if you weren't doing what they are presenting you? Because for some of you, you might say, yeah, I'm going to negotiate, I'm going to ask for a promotion. I see that that's one pathway. However, for me, it might be that, I have kids. It might be that I like to travel. It might be that I go to the gym and I have all these other activities. It might be that I'm a caretaker for my mother or what have you. It might be that there are other things that are important to me outside of taking on additional work that's going to ultimately limit how I show up in other areas of my life. I hear that very often. I know that that's a value for me. And so for you, Eliza, and for some of you, taking on two opportunities might diminish your light in another area of your life. And that is perfectly okay
Thank you.
because we
So
have to
helpful.
show up as our full selves everywhere.
Mm, thank you.
Yeah. So we really want to make sure that we are honoring ourselves. And I also saw that Regan is willing, or Reagan.
Well,
Um,
Mariama, we have 3 minutes
oh, were there
left.
other people? Yes. Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Unfortunately, we only had time for one, so
All right. Well, Reagan, put it in the chat. Let us
yes.
know, and we'll see what we can also do as well. But hopefully, you all are getting the sense that it's really also about figuring out what's at the root, and then figuring out what is it that and recalling for yourself, what is it that I really want to say, and then how do I tweak it to actually, as Lori said, make sure that I get the success that I'm looking for. Ultimately, that I'm maximizing my true purpose and what I want to do with my life, right? And so that's something that's very, very important in terms of how you show up as your true self. So remember, right? It's all about self leadership. It's going to preserve your energy, strategic questions, building on the relationship and the confidence, the boundaries, so that you're not over functioning and you're really manifesting your own self trust. And the ethics interrupts the constant people pleasing or even the self betrayal that sometimes we fall into. So, speaking up is courage over perfection. Remember that.
And I'd like to let everyone know that we hope to see you at annual conference in Indianapolis. Mariama and I will be presenting together, so please come to our session. Make sure you connect with us. Mariama, any more you'd like to say about us in Indianapolis?
We look forward to seeing you all in Indianapolis. We look forward to seeing you all in many different spaces and places. Lori and I get around to all different kinds of events. We're traveling. So, if you see us or if we see you, remember we are out there. We want to give you the grand ASAE hug. And there are other ways to also stay connected via LinkedIn also and via email. You are not in this alone. We are here and please utilize us and stay connected as well.
And last but not least, thank you all for being on here live. 191 people. That was awesome. Thank you.
We actually had over 200 at one
Oh,
point.
sweet,
Yes, yes.
sweet.
Yeah. And so just know that there are some key resources toward the end of the slide deck, more phrases for you to say no, lots of other resources. So just remember to check those out as well. And again, thank you. We are so honored that you took the time to spend the hour with us.
And I'm going to promote that if you are an ASAE member, the recording of this will be up in a few days. So you could get all the slides and resources.
Yes, thank you all for joining us today and for participating so actively in this conversation. So, as you move back into your workday, I certainly, along with Lori and Mariama, encourage you to identify at least one area where you can set a boundary today to make room for larger goals tomorrow. I did place Association Career HQ, which is who I represent, inside the chat, a direct link. Our LinkedIn's are in there. So, thank you so much for being a part of the ACHQ community and ASAE. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.